Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Giri Bharadari. Gopijana Vallabha Giri Bharadari. Gopijana Vallabha Giri Bharadari. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Giri Varadari. Gopi Janavallabha Giri Varadari. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. Jam Vishpad Paramahamsa Pravajikacharya Sotara Sata Shishimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jam Vishpad Paramahamsa Pravajikacharya Sotara Sata Shishimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Jam Vishpad Paramahamsa Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Srila Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Gudale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaur Vani Vacharne Nivishesha Shanani Vischadistarne. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tapas. We're getting to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 31. Narada instructs the Prachetas. Text number 20. Apahata Sakala Eshana Amala Atmani. Apahata Sakala Eshana Malatmani. Apahata Sakalai Shana Malatmani. Aviratam Edita Bhavana Upahuta Aviratam Edita Bhavanopahuta. Aviratam Edita Bhavanopahuta. Nija Jana Vasha Gatvam Atmano Ayan. Nijana Vasha Gatvam Atmano Yan. Nijana Vasha Gatvam Atmano Yan. Na Sarati Chidravad Akshara Satam Hi. Nasarati Chidravad Akshara Satam Hi. Nasarati Chidravad Akshara Satam Hi. Apahata Sakalaisha Namalatmani. Aviratamidita Bhavanopahuta. Nijajanavashagatvam Atmanoyan. Nasharachi Chidravad Akshara Satamhi. Go ahead. Apahata Sakala Shanamatmani. Aviratamidita Bhavanopahuta. Nijajanavashagatva Atmanoyan. Nasharati jidvad akshara satam hi. Apahata sakalaishanam alatmani. Aviritamidita bhavanopahuta. Nijajana vashagatvam atmanoyan. Nasharati chindravad akshara satamhi. Apahata, vanished. Thank you. Vanquished. Sakala, all. Eshana, desires. Amala, spotless. Atmani, to the mind. Aviritam, constantly. Idita, edita, increasing. Bhavana, with feeling. Upahuta, being called. Nijajana, of his devotees. Vasha, under the control. Gatvam, going. Atmanaha, his. Yan, knowing. Na, never. Sarati, goes away. Chidravat, like the sky. Akshara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Satam, of the devotees. He, certainly. Translation. Being completely cleansed of all material desires, the devotees are freed from all mental contamination. Thus they can always think of the Lord constantly and address Him very feelingly. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, knowing Himself to be controlled by His devotees, does not leave them for a second, just as the sky overhead never becomes invisible. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. It's clear from the previous verse, which was, by showing mercy to all living entities, being satisfied somehow or other, and controlling the senses from sense enjoyment, one can very quickly satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardana. It's clear from the previous verse that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardana, is very quickly satisfied by the activities of his devotees. The pure devotee is always absorbed in the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated, Srinvatam Sukata Krishna, by always thinking of Krishna, the pure devotee's heart is freed from all kinds of desires. In the material world, the heart of the living entity is filled with material desires. When the living entity is cleansed, he does not think of anything material. As the mind is completely cleansed, one attains the perfectional stage of mystic yoga. For then the yogi always sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart. Jnana vavasti tad gatena manasa pashyantiyam yoginaha. As soon as the Lord is seated within the heart of the devotee cannot be contaminated by the material modes of nature. As long as one is under the control of the material modes, he desires so many things and makes so many plans for material sense enjoyment. But as soon as the Lord is perceived in the heart, all material desires vanish. That's where the vanish came from. When the mind is completely free from material desire, the devotee can think of the Lord constantly. In this way, he becomes completely dependent upon the lotus feet of the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prays, Ainandatanunja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam vado kripayata vapada pankaja stitiduli shidisham vachintaya. My dear Lord, I'm your eternal servant, but somehow or other I've fallen into the ocean of this material world. Kindly pick me up and fix me as a speck of dust at your lotus feet. Shishastika 5. Similarly, Srila Narottam Das Thakur prays, Aha Prabhu Nanda Sutta Vrishabhana Sutta Yuta Karana Karaha Ebar Narottama Dasa Kaya Nateliha Ranga Pai Tomavina Ke Ache Amara. My dear Lord, you're now present with the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, Srimati Radharani. Now both of you, please be merciful upon me. Don't kick me away, because I have no shelter other than you. End quote. In this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes dependent on his devotee. The Lord is invincible, yet he's conquered by his pure devotee. He enjoys being dependent on his devotee, just as Krishna enjoyed being dependent on the mercy of Mother Yasoda. Thinking himself dependent on the devotee gives the Supreme Lord great enjoyment. Sometimes a king may engage a joker. In the process of joking, the king is sometimes insulted. The king, however, enjoys these activities. Everyone worships the Supreme Lord with great reverence. Therefore, the Lord sometimes wants to enjoy the chastisement of his devotees. In this way, the relationship eternally existing between the Lord and his devotees is fixed, just like the sky overhead. If we could sincerely pray together. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamhayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shiyata Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Sha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Since Mukunda Charna Prabhu is flying out to the East Coast to have the association and service of his spiritual master, could we chant one more Maha Mantra for his safe traveling and quick return? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Thank you. So you might notice we're starting to, seems to be a recurring theme in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Pure unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. It is only by pure devotional service that one can understand Krishna. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyashasmi tatvataha tatomam tatvato gyata vishate tadanantaram. One can understand me, Krishna speaking, as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Bhaktyatananya sakya hamevam vidhorjuna gyatum drashtum chitta vena praveshtum cha parantapa. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Bhagavad Gita 11:54 and 18:55. So, Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, our Prananath, the Lord of our lives. Without Him we don't exist. Without Him we have no purpose. We're completely dependent upon Krishna. So it behooves us to understand extensively, to the best of our ability, this subject matter of pure devotional service. And having some understanding of it, to apply it to the very best of our ability. So, there are many definitions for pure devotional service, but there's one that stands supreme, given to us by Srila Rupa Goswami. Does anybody besides Dravida know what that verse might be? Oh, he needs a microphone so that Prabhus online can hear.
Anya balashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavitam anukulena krishnanushilanam bhaktir uttamam.
Yes, this is the supreme definition of pure devotional service. Actually, there are several verses that could be quoted that describe pure devotional service, but this one stands supreme above them all. Every word has been chosen, empowered by Lord Chaitanya. Every word has been chosen by Srila Rupa Goswami. So there's no wiggling into misunderstanding the definition of pure unalloyed devotional service. We could go to text 6 of the second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 126. Savai pumsam parodharmo yatod bhaktir hoksajay haitaki apritiyata yatma supersiditi. The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service and to the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Now these two qualities have to be there in the performance of devotional service. Ahaitaki has to be causeless. What does that mean? There is no other cause to bhakti than bhakti. Bhakti is eternally within the heart of all living entities. For the conditioned souls in the material world, it's covered. But when one comes in contact with the bhakta, and he shares with you his bhakti, instructions on bhakti, his influence, the influence of the potency of his own bhakti, then it becomes reawakened. Karma, Gyan, Yoga, nothing else can produce bhakti. It stands supreme. So it's causeless in that way. And unbroken, apratihata. Has to be continuous, 24/7. Nityam seva. In order to be the full manifestation of pure unalloyed devotional service. And of course, sometimes a haitaki is unmotivated, as it says in the verse. So one's motivation is simply love and the desire to please Krishna. One wants nothing other than service. The reward of the service, if you will, if you insist, my Lord, please give me more service. And of course, it goes without saying in the association of devotees. So we have the association of devotees given to us by Srila Prabhupada. And we had to take advantage of it, as Balaram was explaining very nicely in a class on Wednesday. Appreciating each other's company, each other's qualities, each other's sincerity of purpose. Now this particular verse, one reason why it wouldn't stand supreme is because it says that the supreme occupation or dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service. So this has some correlation or inference to Varnashram Dharma. By Varnashram Dharma duties in the association of devotees, with the guidance of devotees, gurus, then you can reawaken your love for Krishna. It's important for most of us, certainly in the lower rungs of bhakti, Vaidhi bhakti, absolutely necessary. Whatever ashram and varna we're in, perform the duties to the best of your ability for the pleasure of Krishna. Unattached, desirous of anything else but the pleasure of Krishna. But the definition given by Rupa Goswami, Ananda Kirtan Prabhu, quoted, is that verse simply deals on the platform of the soul, the Sarup of the living entity. It's not dealing with anything material. Lord Chaitanya would say, that's nice, but there's more. Because he wasn't interested in anything of this material world. He wanted to get to the essence. The first step in which he accepts is pure devotional service, hearing from a pure devotee, free, throwing aside any speculative or fruitive desires. Just hear. Add Krishna to your life. So this is one reason why it stands supreme. Also, interesting enough, this Anyabhilashita Shunyam 1.1.11, I believe, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's also the Paribhasa Sutra of the book, which means that the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is to be understood through the lens of that verse. If you come to some conclusion other than what that verse is explaining, then you've had a misunderstanding. And even if apparently the verse, the knowledge given, the subject given may not apparently agree, then don't take the direct meaning. Go to the indirect meaning, because the purport of everything in the book is leading to that verse. Pure unalloyed devotional service. So pure devotional service has different qualities, symptoms. The second half of the verse deals with the primary symptoms. That pure unalloyed devotional service is full engagement in Krishna's service. Full engagement, as we heard, unbroken, constant, no gaps. Srila Prabhupada uses the term in the Nectar of Instruction, Upadeshamrita, again by Rupa Goswami, that it's a cultivation, this devotional service. Cultivation means activities that are instructed to us by the spiritual master. There are 64 items of devotional service given to us. The first 10 are the do's. Do this. The second 10 are do nots. Don't do that. So we have to follow both. When one has any other desire than to try and please the Lord, then that's understood to be ignorance, that's understood to be contamination. And that contamination keeps us from embracing and being allowed into the realm of pure unalloyed devotional service. Pure unalloyed devotional service is under the direct potency and spiritual energy of Srimati Radharani, or Radha and Krishna, or Krishna, however you want to say. Mahatmanas tumam partha daivim prakritim ashrita. We've said that in the heart of the living entity is bhakti that's covered and simply has to be reawakened. This is true. But at the time of in the process of reawakening, we have two of the three major potencies of the Lord that are there. They're sufficient when they become reawakened. Some of it is the knowledge, isn't it? And Sandini. These are possessed by Krishna, as is Ananda, Ladini potency, personified in Srimati Radharani. So on our own, independent of the association of gurus, Vaishnavas, we don't have the ability to kickstart or reawaken our bhakti. That's why you have to have the mercy of gurus who benedict you, who bless you, who give you. They being a transparent medium from Krishna, Radha and Krishna, since we're Gaudiya Vaishnavas. From Radha and Krishna, this Ladini potency. You see, only the pleasure-giving potency of Krishna has the ability to attract and give pleasure to Krishna. And on our own, being the Vimbimanamsha, the separated parts and parcels of the Lord who have such tiny, insignificant qualities of the Lord. Qualitatively the same, but quantitatively, so small. So small. So we have to be rejoined with the Ladini potency, and that's through the surrender to and the following of the instructions of gurus. Then the bhakti can manifest with their infusion, their blessings, Guru Kripa, Krishna Kripa. Then the bhakti can manifest. This process is anything but cheap. We say it's sublime and easy, and it factually is, without any question. It's sublime for those who are tasting this unlimited pleasure of serving the Lord, of pleasing the Lord. And it's easy for the neophytes. Often we'll hear each other say, yeah, you can say that, but it's not really that easy. But Srila Prabhupada in the purport says it's as easy as anything for anyone who takes help from the spiritual master and the Lord. We have to recognize on our own there is no possibility of reawakening and performing, becoming fixed, developing the fruit of pure unalloyed devotional service. Impossible simply on our own endeavor. Never going to happen. And especially in the lower stages of Vaidhi Bhakti, we still have the desires that linger like ghosts, like witches within the consciousness. Sometimes we are aware of them. Sometimes we're coasting quite nicely, and then all of a sudden something pops up, and you go, whoa, Krishna! Or as Bhakti Vinod Thakur recommends, when one is faced with some desire outside of devotional service, and you realize they're trying to rob you of your opportunity, that desire is trying to rob you of the opportunity of pure devotional service, one should very loudly call out the name of their spiritual master. Prabhupada! Because we can't do it on our own. Daiva Yesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Dharatya. Maya Devi is empowered by Krishna. She's his energy. And we being so tiny, even though we are superior in nature, spiritual, but because we're so tiny without Krishna's help. Mameva ye prapajante tam stave bhajan. No, mameva ye prapajante. Mayami tam tarantate. Without the help of Guru and Krishna, Guru and Garanga, she'll overwhelm us. She'll pull the carpet out from under our feet. And those who are even advanced in devotional service, pure devotional service, the unalloyed devotees, they still maintain this mood. Srila Prabhupada shared with us every day praying, please, my dear Lord, don't let me fall into Maya. And when a devotee one time said, Prabhupada, sometimes blah, 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 I fall into Maya. Prabhupada said, no, you're always in Maya. So we might have to edit the prayer. Please don't let me fall into Maya. My dear spiritual master, my dear Lord, please help me get out of Maya. These material desires are like witches or ghosts haunting us. It's a conditioning that we have to become free of. It's like the leper, Vasudev. Vasudev or Vasudev? Vasudev. It's like the leper Vasudev. He was accustomed to the leprosy. That's what he had. That was the body and the plight that he lived with. And he accepted it. And so we're accepting the conditioned nature often. We're accepting. Like, of course. That's who I am. That's what I do. Unthinkingly. Sometimes not even realizing that, no, this isn't devotional service. This is a weed. This is a material desire. This is in the realm of what I like or I don't like. It's in the realm of my trying to control somebody or some situation, which is just another form, no matter how gross or subtle it may be, of trying to enjoy. The root of all that is envy of Krishna. It is material filth, contamination. And the modes are the atmosphere and the ropes that bind us to this. Chatur asked me to quit saying crap on the Vyasan, which bind us to this garbage. It's a symptom that we're still diseased. What to do? The modes are so pernicious. Correct? It means microphone. The modes are so pernicious.
Yeah, dangerous, poisonous, harmful.
Oh, are they ever? But this is what we find ourselves in. Ignorance, passion, maybe sometimes a little goodness. So what to do? We simply have to keep engaging in devotional service. That sincerity of purpose and that endeavor will help us become free of the modes of material nature. Free of the contamination. That was the verse quoted in the purport. What was it? Srinvata Sokata Krishna Punya Shravanam Kirtanam. That Krishna from within the heart, when he sees the truthful devotee engaged, trying his best to please him, he purifies the heart of material desires. This way one becomes more determined to hear, to chant without offense, without offenses, to hear and chant attentively. Mamchayo vibhacharina bhakti yogena sevate saganan samati chaitan brahma bhuyaya kopate. Only full engagement in devotional service will help us rise above the modes of material nature. Any and all the other subservient processes, karma, jnana, yoga, etc., they don't free us of the modes. There may be some temporary abeyance. They don't completely extinguish the desires from within the heart. They can burn it down to the ground, but underneath the ground remains the seeds. And at some point they will remanifest. They say there are some seeds in the desert that lay dormant. Lie or lay? Lie dormant in the sand, the dirt, the earth of the desert, and don't blossom for decades. We've been in this material world since time immemorial. We have desires from millenniums ago. It's certainly possible because they all get stored. It's like the cloud. It's there whether you realize it or not. And it will always be there. Material nature knows, Lord in the heart knows. And when they become manifest, then we know. So by attempting, when one has difficulty in devotional service, when one makes mistakes or even falls down, there is no other recourse than to continue on in devotional service. There is no other prayaschita, purificatory process. Smarta Brahmins would tell one devotee, was his name Raghava something? What was the name of the devotee? They said, the only recourse you have to become purified of your sin is to drink molten gold. In other words, commit suicide, give up that body. Lord Chaitanya said, nonsense. Go to Vrindavan and render devotional service. Remember the name? Little homework if anyone has the interest. Thought it started with an R. Anyway, the only devotional service can purify. Shortcomings, devotional service, offensive chanting, keep chanting. And in pure devotional service, there's two things. I often emphasize the motivation, the desire within the heart. If you're not conscious of why you're performing the activities you're doing, then it's mechanical and you're sleepwalking. I dare say you're definitely performing them under the influence of the modes of material nature. So I often emphasize that. But in Rupa Goswami, the purport to this Anyabhilashita Sunyam, it's not just the motive. You also have to have the activities, the sincerity of purpose exhibited to the Lord. I'm willing to put my activities, my money where my mouth is. It's not an armchair activity or engagement. We sometimes forget that the essence and most important aspect of pure devotional service is the hearing and chanting. Or as in this verse, it's talking about the remembrance of the Lord. The hearing and chanting is everything. And everything is meant to support it and bring us to the point of offenseless and pure chanting. So you're not just spacing out, you're not wasting time, you're not being lazy if you are chanting Hare Krishna. Sometimes in a person's life, health, etc., it comes to the point where that's all you can do, because the energy in the body can become so useless. But that's everything. That's the gift, the medium through which Krishna Prema is achieved. It's the process Lord Chaitanya has given us. And we want to come to this point of chanting feelingly, as it is advised in the verse. To think of the Lord constantly and address Him feelingly. And as long as this garbage of material desires is within the heart, to enjoy or to escape from this material world, then one will not experience that feelingly calling out to the Lord. One will certainly not be given the gift of pure unalloyed service to the Lord. So the first point or symptom is engagement in the Lord's service. Then anukulyena has to be favorable. This word is so specific because we don't just say activities that please Krishna, because sometimes the demons please Krishna, but they're not performing devotional service. The example is given Chanura pounding, beating Krishna in the wrestling match of King Kamsa and Mathura. He's a demon. It wasn't pure devotional service, but it was pleasing Krishna. So that's why we say the desire, not to please the Lord, but to have the desire to please the Lord. And the flip side of that is Mother Yasoda, when she put Krishna down, interrupting the nursing of Krishna so she could go and get the overflowing, boiling milk. Krishna was very unhappy, very displeased. He became angry, he bit his lips. Took a stone, he broke the yogurt pot where she was churning butter previously. Mother Yasoda didn't make him happy at all, didn't please him. But her act of putting him down was pure unalloyed devotional service, because her only desire was to please her son. So very specific, this word anakulyena. And these are the first two principles of unalloyed or full surrender to Krishna. To accept what is favorable and to reject what is unfavorable. Which takes one out of the realm of what I like and what I don't like. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, to the degree that we are under the spell of that mentality, I like this, I don't like that, to that degree we are separated from Krishna. The pure devotee is free. They have none of these separatist desires. They simply desire to please Krishna. They can please or desire to please Krishna in unlimited varieties of ways. And Krishna is so attentive, so attached, so pleased by that unalloyed service and complete surrender that he will never leave the devotee for a moment. He will facilitate the fulfillment of their desires. And thus we hear that sometimes I don't need to hear these reverential prayers of the Vedas, the Paka Brahmins, the Vaikuntha Bhaktas, such awe and reverence. No. Let me hear Mother Jatila just ring me out. Ream, I think, is what they say in modern culture. Ream me out. Let her just chew me up and spit me out. Stay away from my daughter-in-law, you rascal, you rogue. Polluter of virtuous young girls of Vrindavan. Our Mother Yasoda chastising him, tying him up. Or his cowherd boyfriends joking and making fun of him. He relishes it. And that's the third part of pure devotional service, of the primary symptoms, Krishna. Now, when we talk tattva, Krishna means, like when I believe in the 9th chapter of Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto in the Bhagavad Gita, that verse is quoted. Prabhupada in the purport talks about Mam, me, means Krishna and his expansions. Am I right? The purport. Krishna, Vishnu, Nrsimha, Vamana, etc., Vraha, they're all the Lord. They're all absolute. And thinking of any of them and serving any of them is perfect. But from the platform of rasa, relationships or mellows exchanged between the Lord and his devotees, no. And Prabhupada expands on that in the 18th chapter. Same verse, different purport. He goes into the rasa of this means only Krishna. Yasoda Nandan, Shama Sundar Krishna, Shrimati Radharani's Krishna, Vrindavan Krishna, nobody else. All this awe and reverence is inspired, is encouraged, is facilitated by the overwhelming presence of Aishvarya, of the Lord. That's what comes out of the servants of Narayan and Vishnu. But when the overwhelming opulence is sweetness, then none of that exists, this awe and reverence. None of it. Srila Prabhupada said, it's great, it is glorious for one who understands God and loves him. Boy, does the world need more like that. But he said it's nothing compared to those who don't even know Krishna as God and love him. And that's the Vrajvasis. All of them, the Vrajvasis, they simply love Krishna. Why? Because in sweetness, he has qualities that Narayan doesn't possess. 4 qualities specifically that Rupa Goswami tells. The sweetness of his leelas, pastimes, the sweetness of his devotees, the reciprocations, etc., the sweetness of his playing the flute, and the sweetness of his beauty. All of them capture, bewilder, totally absorb the consciousness of the Vrajvasis. Demigod, God, ordinary little naughty boy, they don't care. He's their life and soul, and they do everything. Everything in their life is simply to try and please him. Period. And that's what we're being given the opportunity to be invited back into. Vaidhi Bhakti in and of itself will not give that. You can follow perfectly the 64 items of Vaidhi Bhakti. Doesn't mean you'll get this Raga Bhakti, this spontaneous Bhakti, Ragatmika Bhakti, that is best exemplified, performed by the Vrajvasis. But in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, it's perfect, because we perform Vaidhi Bhakti, but we do so knowing about, hearing about the supremacy of Krishna, of Vrindavan, of the Vrajvasis. We keep it high above our head with great respect, and we pray, we yearn. If we're hearing about Krishna's qualities, if we're hearing about Krishna's sweet reciprocations with his devotees, his daily activities, how he's completely captured and controlled by his devotees. And of course, that really comes, the taste, the attraction, I could say, and the taste, whichever increases when one gets past the contaminated state in bhakti, mixed devotional service, when one becomes fixed. The verse you had 3 days ago and Wednesday, whatever, it said to be one with the Lord, to understand one's qualitative oneness with the Lord. It has to come. We have to come to that point. If we don't come to the level of Brahman, we're not allowed to directly engage in the service of the Supreme Brahman, Krishna. That's why that verse is there, a nice description of pure devotional service. Sarvapadi vinirmuktam tatpartvena nirmalam rishikesha rishikena sevanam bhakti uchate. You have to become free of the false designations and attachments. The senses have to become completely purified. Spiritual senses manifesting by grace of Guru and Gauranga. To render, to directly render, always through the transparent medium of the Guru, but directly, face to face with Krishna. This is the difference between Vaidhi Bhakti and Gaudiya Vaishnavism in our disciplic succession and Vaidhi Bhakti of the Vaikuntha Bhaktas or other sampradayas. We're so very fortunate. And we're meant to use our intelligence to hear of these things, to scrutinizingly study them, to try and understand. Whatever level we're on, we have the ability at this moment, right now, to be engaged in unalloyed pure service by the mercy of Guru, only by the mercy of Guru. But if we get our desire right, I want to please Krishna, I'm surrendering to you, I'm surrendering to your representative, my spiritual master. If we get that right and then follow the instructions, Kanishta, Madhyam, Uttama, they all have the ability to render unalloyed pure service. What causeless mercy. So these are a few thoughts on the subject matter of unalloyed pure devotional service. Would anybody like to ask a question or share a comment, a thought that you may have?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
May I?
Yes, please.
Rajendranandana Prabhu. The quote from the purport is as follows. Sometimes a king may engage a joker, and in the process of joking, the king is sometimes insulted. The king, however, enjoys these activities. End quote. So, Prabhu, my question is as follows. is it that we can transport for joking played between devotees? Is it that the jokes may happen only in consideration of the same level of advancement? For example, Srila Prabhupada's disciples play jokes with each other. Devotees with less advancement play jokes with each other, or is it possible for a less advanced devotee to play jokes with a most advanced devotee? How does it function?
One of the first sannyasis, the first sannyasi I ever met was Rajendranandana Goswami. And I have a joking nature. And those who know me go, really? But I was so attracted because, I mean, what would life be without laughter, without the humor? It comes from Krishna. I mean, what a jokester and a prankster he is. I can't talk now in the Bhagavatam, but if you leave or give me a message, that would be wonderful. I'll shut you off now. Okay. Volume down. Forgive me. I could have been like Vijay or what have you. I have something going on at home that really ideally would have included my presence. But anyway. So Vijay was so enlivened. Humor comes from Krishna. He's a joker. And honestly, sometimes I think it's the only service I have worthy of offering to some of my elevated God brothers, to put a smile on their face, to make them laugh. And something as simple as that can please them. And that's the secret, to please the Vaishnavas. If you please the devotees, Krishna's pleased. If you please the devotees, they pray for you on your behalf. They wish well of you, for you in devotional service. So yeah, you know, it has to be understood properly, the relationship, if it's appropriate or not. But yeah, it certainly has its place in devotional service, a very valuable place in devotional service. According to the nature of the devotee, it will have more or less. But yeah, if you can't laugh at yourself, if you can't laugh at the miseries of the material world, what are you going to do? If you're sincere in feeling, you'll cry. Laugh or cry. Does that have some value?
Rajendranandana Prabhu, so in accordance with your answer, I can make jokes only with my peers. Is it that I am not allowed to play jokes with you?
Well, with me, I that's another case.
Because I'm not a Prabhupada's disciple, can I make jokes with Srila Prabhupada's disciples?
You can test the water, and if it's appreciated, go for it. If not, you don't want to, have, what is that saying the karmis have egg on your face or something like that? You don't want to make a fool of yourself. Like when Prabhupada gave this in the purport, the section you read, I thought of that minister to the king. I'm bad on names. I think it was Akbar, and what was the minister's name? Birbal? So the king one time asked him, what's the difference between you and an ass? A donkey. He looked at the king, he said, about 4 feet. Now somebody could be beheaded if they didn't have the relationship. You go and insult a king who has the ability, life and death is in his hands. of the life and death of his subjects could be in his hands. But he appreciated, because everybody else is, and I found that with my senior devotees. You know, after a while, this awe and reverence, it gets old. You have to take on the service. You have to accept the respect and the service of subordinates. But it's not, it's out of duty if your heart is clean or becoming cleansed. So to be able to have the intimacy of friendship in Krishna consciousness, which will obviously include joking, what a blessing. And many devotees are looking for it. Everybody's looking for friendship, that's for sure. If you don't find it in ISKCON, in Krishna Conscious Association, you'll go outside to get it, because it's part of who we are as living entities. So try it. If it works, great. If not, then... What's that? Yeah. You can drop my name if it doesn't work. He said this is bona fide. You must be in Maya, Maharaj. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Oh, better than okay. Wonderful answer to my question. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful Krishna conscious day.
You too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Prabhu, it is such a pleasure having you here. I know you've stayed long and late today. But thank you.
I was entranced by the class, to be honest with you. I just like, hopefully there's no other question. This is just a comment. A comment. I like, the question should go before the comment. But this verse, when I first, not when I first encountered it, but recently, 4 years ago, I mean, when in perspective of my life, this is a great verse. I memorized it, you know, and it has, as you notice, it has a little bit difficult meter. This is the same meter as Bhishma De's prayers. But the one thing I wanted to call attention to is this phrase, Edita Bhavanopahuta, in the verse. Edita means increasing. And so the idea is that there's all the desires, material desires, are completely eradicated for the devotee who is with ever increasing feeling, he's calling upon the Lord. And Krishna never leaves such a devotee. That word is the same word that Kunti uses in her prayer. Did you notice that?
Oh, yeah. Definitely thought of that verse, but it didn't come out.
Yeah, and I just wanted to...
Chant it if you like.
Well, Janmaishya Shuddha Shibir, Edamana Madakpaman, Naiva Hatti Badatan Vaitrama Kinchana Gocharam. And what I'd like to do is to read the translation that Prabhupada gave in his book, and that was misedited, and we've had it for 50 years now. And it has to do, because in the translation, it's not clear that it's all about chanting the holy name. It's not mentioned. My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted, because one who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot address you with sincere feeling, which is that approach you, because it's mistaken. And the whole purport is about calling out to the Lord, but you can't do it with feeling if you're too much intoxicated with material attachment. And so the verses are actually very closely related here. Because if you are calling out with deep feeling, all your material attachments will go. That's what it says here. So it's a very nice echo in the Bhagavatam. I can point that.
Thank you. Yeah, you're reminding me that the means is the same as the ends in Bhakti because it's absolute. So we'll see spurts, we'll sometimes be fired up, as they said yesterday, fired up. So sometimes, but sometimes not, but that continuing to do that which you then got some mercy, keep doing it, and at some point it becomes constant. Boy, what a day that'll be, the higher rungs of Bhakti. Anybody else? You can go to it if you have to. Anybody else? And I thank you for your association, for your attentiveness, your patience. Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Samaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrindike.